In today's episode, I am joined by Heather Morgan, writer, speaker, and host of the podcast Wandering the Wild Mess. After more than a decade in corporate America, Heather walked away to rebuild her life in Nashville. Now, through storytelling and soulful conversations, she helps others navigate change and see life's wild messes not as failures, but as invitations for growth. Together, we talk about the art of slow restarts, reframing mess as a map, the seduction of productivity versus the pleasure of presence, and the tiny rituals that create steadiness when everything feels uncertain. This is a conversation about courage, tenderness, and belonging to yourself, even when life feels messy. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Slow Secrets. And today I'm with Heather, and we're going to talk about slow in the wild mess. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks for having me, Julia. Happy to be here.
So the first point I wanted to kind of talk about is the art of slow restarts and how embracing slowness can turn the chaos of starting over into a season of clarity, creativity, and self-trust.
I love this, actually, and I've done a lot of reflection right now, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to with just kind of the energy of the world right now. But a couple of years ago, just for background of why this came so important to me and resonates, is that, I really disrupted my life a couple of years ago, got divorced, moved across the country alone, really started my podcast after that called Wandering the Wild Mess, because that's exactly what it felt like. And I found in that time of my life, which I've only realized now since self-reflection and allowing myself to slow down, that I was throwing myself into chaos and busy to distract from everything I didn't want to deal with. So when I moved, I worked in corporate America. I threw myself into work. I was working 60, 70 hours, and I could blame, the job. But at the end of the day, in my self-reflection, I realized that I just wanted to distract. And I used that. And then I used concerts and things to do and everything to just avoid sitting with myself. And in the past, probably the last 6 to 8 months, I've really slowed that down a lot and pumped the brakes and sat with my truth. And that slowdown is honestly the only way that I feel like we can really get in tune with our higher self and the being that we want to become. Because it's not very clear when your life is loud and messy.
Clarity. I feel like clarity, when you have the pause, like everybody got COVID as a giant pause, and it brought a lot of clarity.
100%. And I've talked to a lot of people about that. And that was an interesting, my divorce happened after COVID, but I saw myself now looking back. There was a lot of little changes that were setting these things up, because I do believe in the orchestration of things. So I feel like at that time in my life, I wasn't ready to make these big changes, but it set up a lot of things that you can understand looking backward that COVID really... That made me think about corporate. It was planting seeds.
Yes.
That either grew once I kind of shook up my life in a lot of other ways,
Absolutely. So the second point, the mess as a map, reframing life's wild mess, not as something to clean up, but as breadcrumbs pointing you towards your next chapter.
Yes. And I feel like I've sat on my couch doing this exact kind of mapping of my wild mess myself, because I think it's easy for us to look back and go and do a lot of guilt and shame. This is not how my life should have looked like. I should have been farther along. I should have this. I should have been here. And that really prevents our growth. And we're really, it's such shameful, such to me, I say low frequency, it's not a place where you can flourish when you're sitting in that shame, and it's really a way to almost like stay stuck. And I think we kind of sometimes use that as a scapegoat to our growth. We say like, oh, I'm stuck. And really we just want to loop in that discomfort. And I found myself doing that where I know I wanted to grow, but I didn't want to let go of the familiar struggles, right? I wanted to hold on to me, blaming it instead of like cleaning it up. It's like that room when you're sitting in it, it's messy. You can see everything that needs to be done, but you're like, what will it feel like when it's clean? Because I don't know. I don't remember, and that part gets overwhelming. But when you start to pick up the pieces in the messy room, I would say, you go, oh, so this wasn't bad. This actually taught me this. And because this happened, I learned self-love, like things I won't tolerate anymore. And because this happened, I will no longer take the actions that make me feel that way. And because this happened, and then you start realizing that they were all for you. It was things for you and it wasn't your fault. It was just where you were. It's almost like your higher self saying, okay, we need this lesson.
Yes, everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror. Yeah, it's really great. I also like to manifest and visualize. It's funny because we had this talk with a friend this week and she's like, oh my God, I have like a 3 months plan. You have like a year, 3 years, 6 years. I'm like, yeah, but I visualize and manifest. It doesn't mean I'm going to do all of these things, but that's where I think I'm going to go. If I don't already have that vision, then I'm going to stay in the next 3 months. It's nice to manifest and visualize.
And that's big for me. And I've done that before, but I've learned in the more you slow down and quiet, the more strengthened that ability is, right? There was even instances where like I said, I wrote lake house, right? And I looked at it, visualized it. The next thing you know, the only boyfriend I've had since my divorce was this man that I met, and it was all these by chance, but I won't get into it. But the point is, when I finally went to his house, didn't know anything about his background.
Lake house.
Where did a lake house?
I had this in a sailboat. I was like, I'm just going to hop on a boat and sail away. And it happened.
Yes.
It's like when you're aligned and you visualize, it just comes, like on a platter. Sometimes you have to be a bit patient.
Yeah.
It takes a bit more time.
And sometimes it's like you just have to be trusting in the knowing.
Yeah.
And the how and the when is not really your business.
And also figure out exactly what it is that you want.
Yes, because I wrote lake house. Not I own the lake house. I want to help get the house. Not just so now we're redesigning our visualization where I'm
very specific. So the third point is when you leave everything, what comes with you? The invisible luggage, values, habits, and patterns that sneak into your fresh start.
That's a good one. Because when I moved, right, I pretty much didn't take anything and completely started over. And looking back, that was really an opportunity for me to level up more quickly. Like if you want to call it quantum leap, because I didn't have remnants of the old energy or identity that I held back in my hometown. So that was a big one for me. But what I realized is there's a messy middle. There's a bridge between where you were and where you're going. And so, so in that, you start creating this messy pattern of habits and sneaky things that you use to numb and cope in between where you're meant to be. And so that's like it's really like you leave it behind, but then you create these new habits in the middle that you then have to leave those too. So I think that it's really this self-reflection, and I've been doing this lately. Like I even had some crystals in my house that I brought. Like I buried them in my backyard. Like I really have to take the energies.
Yeah.
And it's not thank you for what you were in my life. I did that with my wedding ring as well. Yes. I gave it to the river. I put it in a river and I went hiking and took it. And I thanked it for the woman that I was and the journey that it led me that far, but it's no longer serves me, and kind of blessed it that way. And people are like, that seems a little dramatic, but I think
it's
depending on and the timing of your life and the energetic ties are huge, and people don't realize that.
Yes. And also acknowledging it for a period in your time, okay, pain, but also the lots of teachings.
100%. And we're always where we're meant to be.
Yes.
Even that's a hard truth.
Yes.
Because why did I do that? Why did that happen to me? Why was that? And getting to the point where you understand that, like, just because it's meant to happen doesn't mean it's necessarily fair, right?
That's right. What you predict. Yeah. So what am I attracting? Okay. You don't like that? Okay, well, you must work a little bit more on yourself then. Then you will attract something more evolved.
And when and that one relationship I had post-divorce, like, I wasn't yet healed, and I know that.
The lake house.
When it ended, I was like, literally, he's probably thinking I'm crazy. I'm sitting on the bed and I'm like, in his lake house. And I'm like, you know what? This happened because of this. And he's looking at me confused, but I'm knowing that I brought this to my life.
Yes.
The closure is there because I got what I needed from this relationship. I took my lesson. And so I'm sitting on the bed going, what does this mean for my next steps in life? Not like, of course there was sadness for him because I disrupted what I thought. I had a little visualization, like, okay, maybe this could be my next partner for a moment in time. But it's like, it's not supposed to be, because it wouldn't feel like this and I wouldn't have to force anything and it wouldn't be this hard. And so then I go, okay, this is not for me. So what lessons? Okay, now I get the lessons. All right, I'm driving back he lived in Knoxville. I'm like, it's a 3-hour drive. I'll drive back to Nashville tomorrow. I'm sleeping on the couch. And that was the end of it. Yeah. Like, I knew you get your lesson. I think sometimes we want to string on to the pain.
If it doesn't flow, it has to go.
I love that.
Yeah, really. And it's really about saying, okay, I'm going to say no to this pattern that's coming from before, to say hello so I can relearn this lesson. And I'm going to be patient. I'm going to work on myself and be ready for, the next pattern that I'm ready to open that door.
And that's a good point too with relationships, when people are thinking like, well, I'm not manifesting the right partner. Why didn't I get the right partner? Well, you weren't the right match.
Exactly.
Because you called someone that did that. So you needed the lesson with this partner probably to find your next partner, because who you were is not an energetic match for the partner you're calling in. So that person cannot find you while you're still living this energetic match with this more maybe like not for you person. But you're only attracting them because that's where you're at.
Yes, absolutely. So point 4, island time meets inner time. What living and working in slower paced places like Gili Air Island or Yoichi Town in Japan, or a small town you've been living in, maybe somewhere in the forest, teaches us about presence, about patience, and deep listening in life.
I think every time you can disrupt your life without autopilot, meaning that you're not just in the hustle and bustle of the world.
Yes.
And you, sit back. Nature is so healing. I hug a tree in my backyard every day and it calls me. I know when to hug it. It's not always the same time. It literally calls me. People can think that sounds a little odd, but it tells me what I need.
In Japan, they call it forest bathing, and it's actually prescribed by doctors. And it's so good. It's so good. You know what I've been doing lately is like, instead of like getting in my car and I have to do this and I have to go do that, to like just be like in my car and be like, okay, I'm gonna actually look around. Oh, I haven't seen this car and I've been here for 3 weeks, passing these streets 3 times a day, and I didn't see there was a blue car there, or there was a man there with pink hair, or like this tree is really beautiful. And, like just being exactly where I am, not already where I want to go, right? So stepping away from the autopilot, also putting off the GPS and remembering which way to drive.
I love that. And the other thing I'd say could be as simple as being in silence. So the other day I took a walk. I walked my dog. And usually I might listen to, an audiobook or a podcast or something, or music in my time. But I decided no, lately I've been I'm just listening to the birds, the trees, I'm connected. And long story short, I'm walking and this woman's slowing down. Anyway, she pulls in and she says, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were someone I knew. I never met this woman before in my life." She proceeds to tell me that her husband had passed away 7 weeks ago on this day and tells me this whole, basically, she was supposed to die during COVID. Like her husband had this dream before he was passed. Like this is years ago, like during COVID, she was supposed to die. The whole story, she's telling me all of these things, like these butterflies coming to her after her husband died, all of the stories that I'm like, it's because I needed to hear this, right? In my life, for whatever reason, that I know, and I've already pieced it. But had I just been distracted, even with the noise of like an audiobook, a podcast, and I wouldn't have been there for that and open for that opportunity to hear from this woman.
We are missing connection.
Yes.
We are missing connection. That's the next point, actually. The seduction of productivity versus the pleasure of presence. How slowing down can make life more abundant, even when it looks like you're doing less.
And I actually love this one very much right now because that's been part of why I'm leaving corporate. So I've worked for like 2 Fortune 500 companies in the US. And a productivity and always being on, like there could be so much pressure. And I started observing that the key people that actually make waves, even in corporate, or get looked upon as their brand being well and getting things across the board. So this applies to entrepreneurship or even in the corporate world, are the people who can slow down and articulate things and really think through it, not in a like delayed, not someone that isn't agile and doesn't have an ability to make quick decisions, but in a thoughtful way instead of a stressful, we gotta.
Absolutely.
Because no one listens to that leader. So if you're even in entrepreneurship or your business, if you're scattered, if your energy is desperate and all over the place and I don't even have time for this and I gotta pump this out, that's felt. Like not
Burnout is the making.
You know what I mean? It's so loud.
Absolutely.
And I think people forget how loud energy is. And don't get me wrong, you can get abundance by grinding. You can. But there's a burnout point.
Yep.
And whether or not you can hold it, because when you've tied your mind to abundance and your wealth and productivity and how you make money through hustle, then when you stop hustling, your nervous system's like, wait, then I'm going to lose all my money.
Yeah.
And you don't, that's all you've ever known. So it's almost, and as you probably know, like your nervous system and how you self-regulate is tied to your ability to make money. That your nervous system caps you out, whether that's you stop making sales and you self-sabotaging, or that's your inability to just be creative anymore. You stop losing it. You stop, like there's a subconscious piece of that. There's a limit you'll hit. And so until you really learn to go like, I'm safe here, I don't have to prove my worth. I'm already worthy.
Yes.
And it's tied to my productivity. You can just flow through life so much better. I think it's such a big misconception, especially in this grind culture, being a boss. Like I think that self-leadership and being a leader, meaning like guide the way, don't like push, like force never flows.
Absolutely. No, it's like that image, right? You have the leader that's pulling and leading, or you have the leader that's like whipping and leading, like there's 2 ways of doing it. But I think today we're really into a more and more sustainable culture because we have to, because so many people are in burnout that it's costing much more to society than people that are actually happy.
And that's like costly on the back end. I mean, I have friends that are in corporate that like, and women, and that can be a key thing for them. Like even with their hormones and reproducing, when you think about that, like when you're in that like high burnout stage, it's really hard to thrive, especially as women. Like men can thrive in it a little bit better just because of their genetic design. But I think for women, especially the flip, right? Because culturally it was like, okay, women, I am all for women making their own money so that they can do their things they want to do. Absolutely. But you have to be mindful of the cost. It doesn't always take the ways that we've kind of been sold. It doesn't mean no work and no discomfort in doing things that you don't know how to do and you have to learn. right? But it's not like every second you got to be grinding and grinding. You know, I just feel like the things
That's not sustainable.
Oh, no, it's like going to the gym like 7 days a week. When you set that kind of a goal, you're not going to achieve it. Like
I,
you might
I
be able
set that goal, so I go 4 times.
yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my God, I went 4 times. I'm so happy.
Like ones you can maintain. And that's a perfect way to think about it. Like, you can be productive, but when you're tying yourself to like obligating so much of your time to that,
It's exhausting.
but it also said something about your self-worth. We've tied, and I learned that too in my journey, like I don't have children. And I feel like at least my environment, it felt like, okay, now I'm not a wife. I don't have any children. Is my only value to contribute by a business, right? And when that is what you, like, when that's in your mind, it's like, I feel like I have to show that my worth, right?
But for example, take the Balinese family that's living around the lake. All they need to do is find fish, rice, and wood for the fire in the night. That is their reality. We have created this push, press like lemons until we are dry. But in the end, we are going to die. And then we want to do all of that to have a lot of money. So in the end, we can enjoy by the lake. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, why?
I haven't.
Why?
Because,
You know, like,
and my one thing that kind of disrupted, which I don't know for your listeners, just to think about, and I know we know this, but whenever you have this being part of your reality, my dad passed away at 49 years old.
wow, wow, that's too.
So way too young. Like, there's no way my dad thought, because even when you're younger, you're like, well, I'm only 25. I have my whole life to live. I doubt my dad thought he was mid-year at 25. Right? So that had changed a lot too. And that was part of my path and journey of, as I got older, then I'm like, I only have this much more time to live if I lived as long as my father. And that put my life in a whole different perspective. And I think we all know that we don't know when our time is up. And I don't think you should necessarily live life like you're going to die tomorrow, but why not also? Because that could be true, you know, like.
You know, also, like, I spend a lot of time with my grandparents and I love them so much. But like the last 10 years of their life, between 80 and 90, you can't see, you can't hear. When you're more than 2 people in a room, you're nervous and you're scared to go outside because you're going to maybe fall and die because all your friends are dying. And then I'm like, I don't think I want that. Like, I'm happy to go younger and enjoy, you know? My dad's the complete opposite. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to die 10 years younger, but I'm going to do what I want till the end. And he's going to go in a, like, oh, he's gone, you know? And it's something you need to decide for yourself, you know? But for sure, working your whole life until you get retirement, which we probably won't get anyway, and then enjoy life is the past, yeah? Today, you can work, save, and then take a little sabbatical. Work, save, take a little sabbatical. And especially invest in passive income. Make a little Airbnb in Thailand or do something on the side. Invest, you know, so you can make passive income. But the grind of, I'm going to work because no. That's past. That's the past. And also all the new generation under me, so the 20-year-olds, you know, that COVID and influencers and all of that, they're like, we don't want to work. Why work? No. So, and they're right.
Yes, I agree. It's completely shifting. And I think that makes some people uncomfortable, which makes it hard I think that you're right. The Gen Zers or the 20-year-olds, they're not really that thoughtful about it. They don't really care what the older generation, but if you're in, like, if you're a millennial or an older millennial or in that space, even like just to leave, you kind of feel like you owe this grind, corporate culture, all of that, like something, which you don't.
You don't.
You don't. Like, if you want to invest in an Airbnb, if you, like you said, if you're passionate about something, go in on that, because your passion doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yes.
That is specifically designed. Those ideas that come to you, those were specifically for you. Now, you might not be the only one that gets those ideas, which is why you should act on that, because they're good. We all have those downloads of really good ideas. And it's the people that take that idea and run with it. And you don't have to know all the steps. You just have to know, you know what, this feels aligned for me. We're going to do it.
Whoa, sorry.
Bless you. We'll just popped out.
In the next point.
And start a $1 business.
Love, grief, and the space between. Navigating the emotional waves that come when you realize the old and step into the unknown. To come back to the $1 million business, we don't, in Indonesia, we're all millionaires, right? But it's not so much about being a millionaire. Because what are you going to do with $1 million?
I think it's the mindset.
Figure out what is your million. Yeah, like, okay, what do I do? What do I need? Yeah, to be wage slavery free. So I spend 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, whatever you want per month. So per year, this much. So in 10 years, this much. I want to retire when I'm 50 or 40. Okay, I need this much. And that's your freedom.
Yes. And you're right. It's not really tied to another number because money to me, like, it's energy, right? It's just a transfer of energy. So but I guess when I use the term millionaire, it means like a lot of people may think that that's freedom, right? So whatever freedom looks like you, not even the dollar amount, but it's the freedom of saying,
exactly,
how can I move through the world? Like, I'm not worried about money.
Exactly.
Like,
it's not about the money. It's about the freedom.
Yeah.
That it gives you.
Nobody cares that much about money for the most part, especially not.
I used to spend everything that I made. And then I started making so much because I had this great idea and it worked so well. And then I was so unhappy. And then after I was like, okay, how much do I actually need to be happy? This much? Okay, what do I have to do to have this much and be free? Okay, I'm free.
And that's a big thing too. The happier you get with yourself in your life, the less you really need to buy.
Less is more. Less is more. You need to figure out what makes you happy. Again, know what you want.
Yes, mapping that out. And I think so as we're thinking about that with the love, grief, and space between, I think that kind of ties in because part of that, it's what we want. And sometimes that's partnership. And I realized that through my divorce, like, I really reflected, like, have I ever really loved anyone? Do I even know how to love? Like, and I had to kind of tick and tie, like, any of the previous relationships that I had and think, like, did I really even love these people? And not in a disrespectful way to them, but I realized that I was seeking them to love me because I probably needed to love myself more.
Amen. I think also when parts of life go. Like for me, it's the house in the Ardennes where my grandmother and I spent so much time. When we sold that house and when she passed, that whole part of me left, and that's fine. It has served its purpose. Like, this was probably one of the only people that got me and saw me for who I was and supported me through everything and who I really looked up to. And she was this entrepreneurial woman, like, alone, She lost her husband very young. And she just did it, And it's just a part of my life that's now gone. But that's also a big brick of who I am today.
100%. And I love that you said it because the grief of losing my dad. I mean, I was 26 when that happened. And so I processed it for a long time in different ways. But I realized when I was starting to revisit after my divorce, obviously it was lonely because not only now did I not have my father, then I didn't have a husband, which I was used to having him in my life for such a big part of it, right? Because I met my husband when I was 21. So it was just a lot of my life. And then he was there when my dad passed at 26. So and I don't have any brothers. So those were like the pivotal men in my life for a long time. And so I looked back and I was like, the reason why my dad was such a thing, not only was he like the best human, I stand by that till the day I die, and anyone that knows him, ever met him, would say the same, just the kindest human, that I did not understand the level of kindness that existed in this world, even in that moment, until I've been doing my own journey of like, gosh, I really hit the lottery. Like, I've got to, my light has to shine for this man because he's not here to shine it anymore. But he fully saw me. And it wasn't just me though. That's the gift he had. He looked at others with no judgment.
Yes.
With only, and it was so beautiful.
Unconditional love. unconditional love.
Conditional love. And that's what we all want in this world, like, is to be fully seen for who we are and loved and accepted. That's all of what we're searching for.
Yes, absolutely. So the next point, tiny rituals for a wild life, micro habits and grounding practices that create steadiness when the bigger picture feels uncertain.
This has been a good one for me because recently I've had some uncertainty come, and obviously leaving corporate for good puts me in a place where it's not as consistent, and I know that I'm going to have to figure a lot out on my own. So grounding is so important, right? Because we're jumping off a cliff. I'm not fully prepared, but I know I'm provided for and taken care of, and that's how strong my faith and trust is. But I have been doing, obviously meditation. I listen to visualization audios that I record, voice record myself every morning and night before bed, really visualizing, to your point about the goals and what do you want your life to look like. I think it's hard for you to even move in that direction if there's not a path. So to your point, it doesn't have to be every exact thing, right? If there's another piece that ends up feeling right, and I update those audios as I evolve, but I can't listen in the morning like this is a typical day. This is like what my ideal day looks like. This is what I feel like. This is the abundance that's surrounding me. This is my worth. This is, and kind of reaffirming to myself. So that's like my morning piece with breath work. And then I immediately go outside first thing when I'm up and just sit in the sun, back to nature. Like that's a huge thing for me, is to just, before earlier in my corporate career was like wake up and the first thing I think of is I got to send this email. I got to do this. I got to do that.
No.
I would wake up with just
anxiety attacks. The brain wakes you up.
And I'm like, and now that I don't feel like that, I'm like, no amount of money is worth feeling like that.
No.
None.
No. But I'm like a serial entrepreneur, right? I have made so many businesses on tiny islands. So I wake up and my brain actually wakes me up. But then I'm like, I'm not getting on my phone. I'm sitting on my mat. I'm doing my practice. At the moment, I'm taking care of a friend's house. So I take care of the garden, which is amazing. I don't have a green hand, but the tomatoes are so pretty. And then I do my movement, right? My mindset, so journaling, manifestations, etc. And nutrition. So very healthy things for my body. And then I call my mom, my brother, like someone I love, and then I start my day. So, okay, I wake up at 6, yeah? So by 9, I already did all of those things for me.
I love that. And that really sets up, to me too, that the other key thing about having a good routine, especially in the morning, it sets your day to show that you're prioritizing you.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you get on your phone and you're replying to an email or posting, that's like you're giving your energy to everybody else before yourself.
Yeah.
So it kind of reiterates to your, yourself.
I try to color code my day. Like my green zone, usually 7-11. So from 9 until 11 or 12, I fast. After breakfast, I have a coffee. So my brain's on and I'm like hyper focused on one task. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, brunch, my brain's not that fresh anymore. I'm a bit tired. That's when I do emails and accounting and meetings for what I only need half a brain anyway, And then in the night, I'm like, okay, just like grounding, washing, cleansing, nurturing foods, but not too heavy, like light. And then podcasts. I listen to podcasts. So Netflix have canceled all of that. And I listen to Eckhart Tolle and like really cool, like Louise Hay and relationship, intimacy or investment, Tim Ferriss or lifestyle, everything I love. Linked to my books, and then I fall asleep with all these great, amazing visions, Of course, sometimes I have a romantic comedy night, huh? Again, it's like 4 days a week,
And I think that's important too, to have
days off,
project.
Today I go in the hammock and I'm straight on my phone and I'm going to scroll for 2 hours. Woohoo! And I'll have pizza for breakfast. It's like a full treat day,
I love that. And I
Yeah.
feel like Nellis is key. I feel like we get very hard on ourselves sometimes about instead of just like give it grace and move forward.
No.
Like we waste a lot of time going, well, I should like even in our day, like we're human. We're having a human experience still, regardless of our knowing, right?
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with, we're not going to be perfect. In days,
And that is
just
perfect. It is in the imperfection that it's perfect. Like the Japanese, they break something and they like with gold repair it. I mean, come on. Like every time I feel something that's broken, I'm like, let's just repair it with gold. It's so good.
And that also reiterates that, and that's a great like metaphor. If you think about yourself, is like maybe you feel a little broken, but as you mend it with gold, instead of discarding it like, oh, it's broken, who cares? You're saying, take that which is broken and give it my highest worth item and make it back together. And it's just as beautiful, if not more beautiful in its imperfection.
Yes.
Right? I love that thought process.
Me too. I love Japan so much. I bought a house there, best buy of my life. Okay, last point. Slow secrets for brave souls. The mindset shifts and intimate truths we rarely talk about when reinventing life. Loneliness, liberation, and learning to belong to yourself.
So this is huge right now because I've been isolating. So I definitely, and I think even on my phone, it's like I don't even want to respond to texts and calls and things like that. Because sometimes when you're I almost feel like that for me right now, it's like a cocoon. And I think a lot of people can relate at points in their life where they get there, where they're like, they know they're coming, but they have to be very mindful of who gets their energy.
Absolutely.
Because when you're in that kind of, I feel like I'm out of the messy middle, but I'm definitely in that cocoon before, the butterfly. And so those energetic leaks of trying to, those people come back in and bring you back to those habits, thought processes that you had before, or your doubts, those seeds of doubts, because not everyone can understand your vision. So you have to be able to, sometimes when you don't have that community of people, which podcasting's probably brought that, and it probably where you live helps. But for people that are in a place maybe that they don't want to be in, and all of those people don't have like mine.
Isolation is huge. It's like social, everyone's happy, but isolation is huge. And people feeling lonely is huge. There is a fine line between being happy alone and being lonely. I know this. I've been alone for 10 years. But the worst is when you're surrounded with people that you love and you feel lonely.
Yes. And I think I thought that before. I felt very blessed that even though I had felt really lonely, I think I'm someone that does well with being alone. But when I moved across the country, from Utah to Nashville, like we talked about, I didn't know anyone here, not one single person. So I was like alone for so long, but I was distracting. So now this time where I've self-isolated, I'm alone. And honestly, that was part of like why I started my podcast, and maybe you too, is I'm so alone in this. I just need to speak for other people to go, you can figure it out. You're not alone. We're in this together. I don't know what I'm doing either.
Yes. So to close, please, one word, and then tell people where they can find you.
Love.
Yes, love. Oh, love is so good. I love love.
Yes, me too. I'm finally opening myself up to that idea again. So
that's exactly what I work on. Heart-centered living.
Mm-hmm. And that's big. It's once you've been hurt, like then it's like, how do I put myself? But I think it's just being open to love again. But you can definitely find me Wandering the Wild Mess, wanderingthewildmess.com. I have some tools there. There'll be more to come. I am working on a lot of like free guides of just all of this identity work and just reset that I'm working on myself and what's helped me so that I can provide that for people that feel lost in their own little journey. And then I have my podcast there that kind of gives you the journey and a lot of poetry and writings and self-reflection. So
send me all the links and I will link all that in the comments.
Okay, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm so glad we could have this conversation, Julie. I think it's much needed. I hope the listeners just love it.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I send you so much love from Portugal.
Like coming to Bali or wherever. It sounds like you're all over the place.
So, bye.
Bye.